was sort of sitting here. Some of you, I think, have met me because there were little squeals when I was first introduced. So that must mean, oh no, not her again. So just to let you know who I am, I was born in the tea plantations of Sri Lanka. Hands up anyone who knows where Sri Lanka is. Oh, some of you do. Well done, almost all of you. Little island of India. And I went to medical school there and then studied my postgraduate study in Hawaii and here. I'm so medically trained, and what does a sexologist mean? A sexologist is somebody who reads about sex, writes about sex, researches sex, talks about sex, does sex therapy, and in the little time has time to have some sex, which is not a lot. However, even in that little time, being married for 40 years, I probably had more sex than all of you put together. So, in fact, I would be assured that I have had more sex than all of you put together. So, basically, what we're going to talk about today is who am I? Who am I? Who are we? So, where am I coming from? Who am I? You can see there, you know, God created us. And God is the one who gives us all these likes. So God likes us. He's given us all these likes. So let's get started. We all have an identity. The word identity means that in some way we associate as same with some other people. There's a sameness to identify. It refers to how we image or see ourselves, as well as how we project ourselves to others. Now, we all have one identity that every one of us in this room shares. What is that? We are all beautiful? Yeah, true. We are all beautiful. We are all women. You know, we are women. You happy that we are all women? Oh, that didn't sound very happy. Let's have a happy, yay. Well done, ladies. So we are happy. We are women and we are proud of it. But apart from that, we are many other things. You know, we have, some of us, we have an ethnic identity, like I would say I'm Sri Lankan, I'm subcontinental, we have a national identity, we have many other things we can identify with. We do various things. Some of us, we love athletics, some of us like reading books, and so we have various ways we identify ourselves. Now, you're young, and we have different seasons in life. You're all teenagers, but there will come a time, I'm sorry to tell you, when you will be old like me. There will come a time. So we are all in a season of life. There will come a time when many of you will be married. Some of you may be single all your life. A season in life. And those, I know, you're thinking, what? So these seasons in life change. But as women, let's first stay with that. As a girl, what does this identity as a girl mean? You see, God created you. God created you. You go back to Genesis. And in Genesis we read that God created man, meaning man and women, in his image. So you are created in God's image. And when you say God, we are talking Trinity. So that close relationship of the Trinity. And then it goes on to say in the creation story, created male and female. So very clearly, the first thing we know, and as we started, what we are certain about is the fact of our createdness as male or female. In this case, female. And I don't want you to be very clear about this. Male and female in terms of body have a beautiful complementarity. We are made to fit as male and female. God said male, female, then he told Adam and Eve, get out there, be fruitful and multiply. Now, do you think God was saying, go plant apple trees and do mathematics? No, God was saying, get out there and have plenty of good sex as man and woman. So that is what we are created for, to fit as man and woman. And you know, when you look at your body, now when the boys come back, have a look, you know, they have, I mean, at their dress body. I mean, you know, they've all got like faces and arms and legs and things. But there's that one part which we keep hidden and honored, and that's our genitals. And that is made complementary. So we must remember this. The male and female genitals are made to fit. Penises are made for vaginas. Vaginas are made for penises. That's our body. What about our brain? Now, which of those is the female brain? The one above or the one under? You know, kind of obvious. We all recognize that our brains are also complementary. This is interesting. We sort of tend to think bodies, yes, but brains are all the same. But you know, in that created goodness of male and female, go back to Genesis, it says God created man and then sent all these animals in front of him, and the man was saying, the dog maybe not good enough. And then God said, I'll make you a suitable helper. And he created Eve. And man, oh boy, man, did he love her. He had one look at her and said, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Oh, how excited. Ladies, when you get married, that's what your husband's going to say on that honeymoon night. So you write that down, and if he doesn't say it, remind him. Guess what? Tell him, the sexologist said you should be saying this. So, what are we going to talk about today? What I'm going to talk about today is, going back to that question, who are you? What do you see in this picture? What do you see, a young girl? How many see a young girl here? How many see an old woman? How many see both? Interesting, isn't it? You can look at that and say, who is that? Who is that? It's so in the eyes of the person looking at it. Who are you? What drives who you are? What? I know. I'll send it to you if anyone wants it, email me. But you know, what are you seeing in yourself? What are you seeing in other people? I'm very sorry, girls, but I really have to move on. So, how I want to start it off is by talking to you about your brain. Because your identity is so tied up with how your brain is developing. So please pay attention here, because this is really important. Your brains as teenagers is a work in progress. It's right now forming new connections. Your brain is rewiring even as you sit here. What's happening? Those parts of the brain, those pathways of your brain that you use will be kept. Those you don't use will be just removed. We call it pruning. It's a use it or lose it principle. I just want to talk to you about two parts of your brain where this is happening very rapidly and is really significant to you. Firstly, what we call the emotional, or sometimes I like to call it your volcano brain. It's an eruption of emotions. It is the part of brain that makes you want to be independent, to move away from mom and dad. You know, there was a time when you held mom's hand when you crossed the road. Now you can think of other people's whose hands you'd rather be holding. And you know, that is moving away from the dependence and becoming independent. The question is, when you are moving away from dependence on your parents, who are you depending on? Who's influencing you? And we will come back to that. You have swinging emotional states. You want quick rewards. You know, you're 11, you're 12. Parents telling you, study hard, in 10 years you'll be really happy. And you're going like, please tell me what happens in 10 minutes. I mean, you know, you want things to happen. That's normal for your age. It's part of growing up. And of course, that growing awareness of sexuality. It's your volcano brain erupting, and that's good. Now, there's another part of your brain which I call the wet rag. It's like this wet rag of a control brain which lies in this frontal, parietal, what we call the higher centers, trying to hold down your volcanic eruption of emotions. It's not very effective because it is developing. The volcano is erupting, but the control brain is developing much slower. In fact, it doesn't mature till you're well into your 20s, which means some of your teachers haven't still got their control brains developed. So you can remember that and remind them when you see them back in school. So what do we have here? We have an emotional brain with developing controls. So you need to remember that. And everything that you feed into your brain now is going to affect how your values, your attitudes, and your sense of identity will develop and will be expressed. This is why I wanted to tell you about the brain, because what you do and read and whom you associate with is influencing who you are, what you do, what you believe in, what turns you on sexually. You know, 2,000 plus years ago, the Apostle Paul wrote in Philippians 4:8 to the Philippian church, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy, think about these things. Today, we have a science that tells us that what you think about and what you do will influence your brain. Isn't that fascinating? How 2,000 plus years ago, the Bible told us something that now we actually give a name to. We call it epigenetics. Isn't that just amazing? So, moving on from the brain. You, my dear young people, are children of the digital generation. You live in a cyber-connected global village where many of your friends are counted in Facebook contacts. Some of you probably have thousands of them. And for many of you, your identity is tied up with a Facebook profile or a Twitter profile, an Instagram picture, maybe even some form of avatar. Knowledge for you is available 24/7 and is only a click away. You are the most connected, advertised to, and sexualized generation that ever walked this planet. So, in this sexualized generation, what I want us to think about is what is the world's standards that are being set for you in terms of your self-worth, your identity, and your significance. What is the world guiding you and telling you you should be doing and seeing yourself as? My dear girls, you live in a desire-based, rights-driven society. What do I mean there? The world will tell you, society will tell you, your friends will tell you that if you want something, if you desire something, you should get it, whatever it is. Be it things or be it some sexual behavior, if you desire it, you should get it. And you have a right to it. So be it homosexual sex, heterosexual sex, the best clothes, do something to look gorgeous, whatever. If you want it, you should get it. So, to be somebody by the world's standards, the world will tell you that life is fundamentally about me. And I deserve the best in life. And I should get out there and get it. And God exists so that He can, bless me like a Santa Claus and give me what I want so I can have a better life. So, to be somebody, you need to the desire to be better than everyone else in some way. You know, be hotter, sexier, cuter, more popular, have more likes on your Facebook, have more downloads of that video you put up. Just be better than another, or have more than of whatever, clothes, video games, shoes, makeup, whatever. Think of something to have more. That is the world's ideas of being somebody. You know, what the world will tell you, that if you are somebody, you've got to be cute and sexy and hot. You know, you feel pressured to project yourself. Very recently, there was research done by La Trobe University where they interviewed years 10 to 12, students from years 10 to 12. And they asked them a number of questions, and I'll just give you some of the data from some of these. One of the questions they asked them was about their use of sexting, which I'm sure you all know, but I'll tell you anyway, is sending out explicit text messages or sending out pictures which show some parts of your body and semi-nude or nude pictures. And this is part of the pressure, that you've got to be somebody who looks cute and hot and project yourself as that. And this is the results they showed. In the survey, they said 69% of the girls and boys said they were sexually active. Everything from deep kissing or French kissing. Don't know what French kissing is, never kissed a Frenchman, but I assume it means tongue kissing, to sexual or vaginal or anal intercourse. And 69% of girls and boys had been sexually active. And if you look at those statistics, you find that among those who have been sexually active, the incidence of having sent or received sexually explicit messages and photos is quite high. We now know research-wise that those who send and receive sexually explicit sexting or send selfies that are sexually explicit are far more likely to be sexually active. Take this message back to your friends. You know somebody who's doing it, you're doing it yourself. Basically understand that today's world tells you this is the new courtship behavior. And this is how you show that you're somebody. Be careful. It's a dangerous thing to do. The world tells you, your friends tell you, oh, come on, you've got to be sexually active. I did a number of interviews with girls your age and boys, and one of the things they told me was that there is an assumption that if you are in a relationship, you must be sexually active. Because after all, everybody is doing it. And this is the statistics from that La Trobe study. I want to look at it again. 69% are sexually active. You know what that says? That 31% are not. Is 69% everybody? No, it's not. It's 40% have had oral sex. That means 60% haven't. Is 40% everybody? No. Even look at sexual intercourse. Only 1/3 of year 10s, 1/3 of year 11s, and half of year 12s have had sexual intercourse, meaning vaginal or anal intercourse. Now that's not everybody. Be very aware of this, because you are going to be faced with this at some time. Boys say to girls, everybody's doing it. I'm the only one whose girlfriend doesn't give me sex. Wrong. Tell them, oh, you know what? The La Trobe study didn't say that. And the sexologist who spoke to us, she told us that that's not true. And then, boys would say, oh, but I'll be sick if I don't have sex. my balls will go blue. Well, the only way balls will go blue if they dip them in blue paint. They do not go blue if you do not have sex. Trust me, I'm a sexologist and a doctor, I know that. You can live, and boys can live very well without sex. I've been a doctor for 40 years, a sexologist for over 30. I have seen people who died due to lack of medication, lack of food, due to exposure. Not one recorded case of death by lack of sex. Nobody has ever died because of lack of sex. So next time, if a young man tells you, you know, I will die if you don't give me sex, you say, no, 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 you will not die. Trust me, our sexologist told us this. So, be careful about how you use the cyber world, social media. Beware of the myth that everybody is doing it. Now, the boys are over there talking about pornography. You know, we tend to think that porn is a boy thing. Pornography is anything that is sexually explicit and created to titillate and to sexually arouse. Note, I did not say videos, internet. I said anything. This means that written pornography, erotic literature is also pornography. Ladies, now 1/3 and rising of porn users are women. The average age of first porn exposure in Australia is 11 years. We are seeing primary school children, girls and boys, who come home saying somebody showed them pornography on their cell phone, on the mobile phone. This is what we are seeing today. Many of you will be exposed to porn already. Many of your boyfriends will be porn users. May not be compulsive, but occasional porn users. When a man uses pornography, it rewires their brain to see women as objects to be used, just like porn stars. They see women as something that is to be used and just thrown away. You become a sexual object rather than a sister in Christ. Be very aware of this. When a man, today I talked to some young men in writing the book Teen Sex by the Book, which is available there if you want to have a look, and I discussed it with young men. And I asked boys, you know, about porn use. And one of the things that a couple of boys said is, how else would we know what girls like? So be very, very careful. If you're seeing a young man and he's using porn, I'm not saying it will always happen, but there is a chance that he will expect you to be like a porn star for him. What about women then? What's happening? You see, many girls, many women are accepting this porn image. In other words, we are accepting that we need to make our bodies in some way sexually available, to make ourselves into sex objects. It's called the raunch culture. And girls are beginning to see or to understand empowerment as some way being overtly or publicly sexual and flaunting their body. My dear young women, you are created in the image of God. Your bodies are beautiful and precious, and you do not have to flaunt it or show it in any way for you to find empowerment. You are precious just the way you are. do not believe the lie of raunch culture. In fact, I would go as far as to say, beware it and turn away from it. The other thing that you will be faced with, living in a GLBTQIA world, a world of gender variance, is that you will be challenged. How do you know who you are unless you experiment? Now, these are all statements that I'm making that I have heard from young women and young men. How do you know who you are? These are statistics from that same study. 8% of men and 4% of young women, girls, said they were sexually attracted only to the same sex. 5% young men and 15% of girls said they were bisexual. I have given you the B in the GLBTQIA. And 12% of sexually active young men and 5% of women said that their most recent sexual encounter was with someone of their own sex. Now, you can see that variation. It doesn't seem to even make sense between those who said they were and those who did. And this is because you are being encouraged to experiment. How do you know who you are? Find out who you are. It's like you're wandering in this world without any identity of your sex, and like you got to try everything. Facebook apparently has 50+ categories, but I just picked the most common ones. What does G stand for in terms of the gender variant world we live in? G is for gay, L is for lesbian, B for bisexual, T for wonderful, Q for queer or questioning, I intersex, very good, and A, very good, 100% ladies. Well done. You know, if I get your parents in here, they would have only got 50%. I love it. It just shows you that you are living in a world where this is your everyday life. Now, I just want to tell you a couple of things about this before we move on. And that is the fact that gender is incredibly complex. The word intersex applies to somebody who has some biological problem. You know, where the baby is born and the doctor goes, oh, what a cute baby, because the genitals are not definitely girl or boy, and in our fallen world this can happen. Transgender, or sometimes called transsexual, is where a child is born with biology that is one, like let's say a girl, but as a little child says, I am a boy. So there's a disjunct between brain sex and body sex. So you can see it's very complex. Sexual orientation or same-sex attraction is just that, attraction, desire. Behavior is always a choice. So there's same-sex attraction, which is a desire, and same-sex behavior, which is a choice to have sex with someone of your same sex. Happy to take questions on that. So these are the things the world puts to you and says, put your identity in your body, put it in your sexual experience, put it in finding out who you are. And underlying that, we will have the evils of pornography use in the world you live in. What happens when you believe this? What happens when you live by the world's expectations? We see the results. In your world, young people, almost half the girls, and probably this is an underrepresentation, and 20% of boys have serious body image disorders. So eating disorder, anorexia, bulimia. We have increasing numbers of girls, and I am sure many of you will know girls in your school who have been hospitalized, or even if not hospitalized, have some self-harm behavior. These are things that you will see. The raunch culture we've already talked about. The need to put yourself out there because you've got to be recognized as sexy. You know, girls, I told you I did the interviews with the boys. I asked some of the boys, well, you know when you see that sexy profile and you say, like, what are you really saying? And a couple of them said, we say, we think you're hot and we want to take you to bed. That is what those likes from some of the boys mean to your profile? So, ask yourself, is this what you want? Is this what you want people to think about your God-given, beautiful body created in the image of God? Today, plastic surgeons tell us that there is an increase in the number of young women your age going in and asking for their genitals to be surgically changed. We call it labioplasty, where the vaginal reconstructions, where the labia minor are trimmed and to make genitals look like some kind of a rosebud. Ladies, that is driven by pornography. One of the girls I interviewed told me that a friend of hers was with her boyfriend. This is a year 10 girl, was with her boyfriend, and he freaked because she had pubic hair. Most porn stars do not have pubic hair. If you grow up in a pornified society, you expect all girls to look like porn stars. This is the culture. This is the image that the world tells you. Can we be free of this? Can we be free of this disappointment and depression that comes of believing in the world's driving our image and our identity? You know, as Christian women, we can be free of the world's expectations. We know that God offers us a source of identity and significance by which we don't have to be the sexiest, hottest, cutest, biggest boobed, smallest boobed thing. We do not have to be the one with the most Facebook profiles, with the most likes on our Facebook profile. We have the biggest like we ever need because we as Christians, ladies, can go up to the creator of the universe who threw those stars into space, and we can go up to him and say, "Hi, Daddy." Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that amazing? You know, you are Christians, I'm a Christian. You know what? The one identity we have, all of us, today is the fact that we are children of God and sisters of Jesus Christ. You know what, girls? You and I are going to be spending eternity together in that identity. Isn't that amazing? And they're sitting there thinking, oh no, we're going to be listening to her talking about sex for the whole of eternity. What's that going to be like? You know, it is an amazing thing that you do not have to listen to what the world is telling you have to do. You know, even your tertiary, your exam scores at HSC don't matter. Don't tell your parents I said that. But the reality is the only thing that gives you identity is not your HSC course, not getting a higher TER than someone, not being hotter or cuter. The only thing that gives you identity is that you belong to the family of God and are sisters of Jesus Christ. So, living in the family is wonderful, but living in the family has obligations. See, you have put to death the misdeeds of the body, and you live not to conform by the pattern of the world, but to be transformed. So what does this transformed lifestyle look like? And that's what I want to spend a few minutes with you. What does this look like? If you are in a transformed lifestyle of Christ, which all of you are here to do, remember what I told you, your brain is a work in progress. Everything you put into your brain will affect you. If you want to live that transformed lifestyle, remember what it said? Transform by renewing your mind. Remember what we said about Philippians 4:8. What you put into your brain. Another reference I've given you there is Titus chapter 2, where it says, the grace of God appears and gives us salvation. It teaches us to say no to ungodliness and worldly passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives. Ladies, we can exert self-control. It's a gift of the Holy Spirit. We do not have to live by our desires. The world will say you have to. We know you don't have to. Who's influencing your behavior? The Bible clearly tells us in Proverbs, choose your friends carefully. In James chapter 4, we say anyone who chooses to be a friend of the world becomes an enemy of God. And one of my favorites, Proverbs 115, says, talking about idols, you will become like them. And we know that now. When you watch pornography and you read pornography, you begin to believe that that is normal. We call it pornified. You begin to accept the lie. How do you treat yourself and your body? This is again how living by God's way. When we are in the family, living by the obligation of the family, Corinthians chapter 6 clearly says, your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit. You are bought with a price. Your bodies are precious. Honor God with your body. You're women, you're embodied, you have your identity in Christ, but in our embodied femaleness, in our femininity, in our female bodies are precious. And therefore, honor God with what you do with your body. And how do you treat others? I've given you some references there. When you go on a date, or whether you're with a friend, be it a girl or a boy, you can be very intimate and friendly without it being sexual. We've lost that ability to have close, non-sexual, intimate friendships. The Bible tells us it's possible. Remember Jonathan and David? They were besties, absolute besties. In fact, I think David said, you're better than me than having a girlfriend. And not in those words, but sort of. But they were best of friends. But they were not gays. They were two men who were best of friends. Non-sexual, intimate friendships are important to build each other up and honor each other. But when you go on a date, when you meet someone and you're getting to know some young man, remember that at that time too, that you are special and precious, and how you use your body and how he uses your body is very important. We are created to save that wonderful, intimate act of sex for marriage. The Bible calls it a naked and no shame relationship. Our dating and our friendships should be other honoring and building each other up, not using each other for our selfish self-gratification. So, in closing, I just want to speak directly to anyone here who has been convicted by anything we talked about or is feeling a little uncomfortable. We live in a world where temptations abound. Just being a Christian doesn't make us immune to these. Many of the things we talked about might have touched some of you, but we must remember that Jesus didn't come for good people. He came for messed up people like me, as that 1 Timothy passage says. And God redeems, God saves, God forgives. So if anything we've talked about today has sort of seemed like, I felt this touched something about what I do, or I feel uncomfortable or sad, please talk to your teachers who came with you. Please talk to them and clear these thoughts that you have. It's very important. Don't just let it go. So, remember what we talked about? You're special. You're created in the image of God. Your bodies are special. They are to be used to honor God. Your identity is very clearly given you as a child of God, as a sister of Jesus Christ. The world will throw it at you that you've got to be gorgeous, you've got to be sexy, you've got to be sexual, you've got to be pornified, you've got to show yourself as the cutest, the hottest, the most intelligent. Nothing matters. They are good things, but they make very bad gods. The only God we worship gives you the only identity that matters. Live it. Thank you.